Hello and welcome to A Course in Miracles television. This program will be looking at Lesson 72 and some of the previous lessons that build up to 72. And Lesson 72 is Holding Grievances is an Attack upon God's Plan for Salvation. I'd like to talk just a few minutes about the prior lessons because a few weeks ago we were discussing, I believe it was Lesson 68 in the workbook. And these lessons have to do with looking specifically at how our grievances, how those things that we hold against others, as in terms of upsets or anger or fear or anything like that keeps us sensing a sense of separation or feeling a sense of separation, actually believing in our not being joined with actually everyone. But let's say if there's a particular person in our life that we're having difficulty with, there is a temptation for us to feel that we can separate from that person and go about our merry way. But the Course teaches a little different view, and it's very unusual for those of us who've not been maybe on a spiritual path for a long time or have heard about this idea that we're all one and that we are really connected, that we really cannot separate ourselves from other people. And the Course teaches that when we hold in our mind a grievance, something that we're holding on to literally, harboring in our mind, it's called a temptation. That's an interesting idea, too, for me, because I remember being sort of raised in a, not fundamentalist particularly, but close to it background. The idea of temptation was a little different. And the Course's view of temptation is not necessarily an external thing that would be tempting me, or you, or anyone else, but a state of mind, or an attitude. And the temptation is to hold on to anger, or even to go into anger as a state, as a way of perceiving life, you might say. And so this helps us to begin to really go into our mind and look at where we're holding on to things as a temptation. In other words, tempting us to stay in a state of separation, really. That's the whole idea. So the Course in Miracles is 3 volumes of books, and the first volume is the text. And there's a lot of material in the text that help us understand the workbook lessons a little better, and are sort of woven into the workbook lessons, and they support each other to build our foundation, really, our spiritual foundation. And why do we need to build a spiritual foundation? Well, in simple terms, the lessons of the Course teaches that happiness, my personal happiness, and the people in my life's personal happiness, there's a sense of responsibility that I gain as I work with the Course for not just my own personal life and my own personal experience, but those around me, the people that I work with, the people that are part of my life in other ways on a daily basis, maybe people I go to church with or do any kind of activity with, my parents, all the way out to an extended family and beyond, that those people have a sense, it's like minds are joined, as the Course says. And when I'm healed, when my perception of life is healed, when my perception of my body is healed, when my perception of another person's body is healed, then that has an impact. It has an effect on those around me. And so really, when I'm doing my spiritual work, when I go within myself and ask the kind of questions that the Course asks us, for example, in this lesson, in this series of lessons, there is a section where he says, we literally ask the Holy Spirit, and what the Holy Spirit is referred to in the Course is that communication link that we still have with God. And it's our guide, it's capital G guide, it's that inner voice that we can hear, that we can tune into. And some people hear it actually as a physical, well, not a physical voice, but a actual sound, you might say, in their mind. And others not necessarily hear it, but can experience it in other fashions and other ways. But at any rate, the Holy Spirit is that part of our mind that's still connected with our source, with God. And literally teaches us, it's our teacher and our guide to a happier life. It's our way that we cross the bridge, you might say, from this, what I would always call a third dimensional reality, or the world of illusion, to a higher dimension or higher dimensions of life and love and happiness and peace. So the Holy Spirit is that part of our mind that's still connected to God and can still tell us, point to us, point out to us what the truth is in any given situation. So one of the prayers that the Course is using in this series of lessons is to go within and say, what would you have me do today? Speaking to the Holy Spirit, who's speaking for God. Where would you have me go? And what would you have me do? Those three questions. Plus, what would you have me say and to whom? So, what would you have me do today? Where would you have me go? And what would you have me say and to whom? These are the questions that daily we can ask for guidance and get answers, literal answers. And so this lesson teaches us to ask that voice within us, that teacher within us, that guide, literally for what to do today, where to go, what to say, and to who. So basically that covers the day. I mean, basically what we're doing each day is going places, doing things, and talking to people. And so this helps us to release our plan, as the Course calls it, the ego's plan. The ego has a plan of salvation, just like the Holy Spirit does. And the ego's plan is holding on to grievances. The ego's plan is staying in a sense of separation, in a separated state. And what the answer to that plan is the Holy Spirit's plan, which is forgiveness, which is joining, which is really shifting our perception of what life is about, what people are about, what I'm about, who I am, who other people are. So that once we begin to release grievances, then we're listening to the Holy Spirit's plan for salvation. Then we're following that. If I hold on to a grievance, if I hold on to an upset and harbor resentment, harbor anger, then I'm listening to the voice of the ego. So we literally have two voices in our mind, and one speaks for love, and one speaks for joining, really, while the other speaks for separation and anger and attack. So holding grievances is an attack upon God's plan for salvation. It's literally a direct attack upon the plan. So the more we're able to release grievances in our life, the more we're able to forgive those around us, those that are in our awareness from day to day. And that can change. Every day, new people, new circumstances occur to us. So we're always given many, many opportunities to forgive. We're always given many opportunities to see life differently, to see things differently. And so these two plans have been given us as the choice. We can choose the Holy Spirit's plan. We can align ourselves with that plan, which is to see ourselves and to see others as who they really are, which is the Spirit. There's a Spirit animating every other person in this world. And so we're in this third dimension, what I like to think of as a third dimensional reality of time and space, matter, energy. And it's like having an overseer in our mind that sees beyond just the limited view of time and space, but sees into eternity, sees into infinity, and knows exactly what's right for us. And not only what's right for us, but for everyone else as well. And so our decisions then can be based on the direction of the Holy Spirit. So holding grievances is an attack upon God's plan for salvation, which is indirectly the ego's plan, to hold on to grievances, to keep us in a sense of separation, to sort of keep us in a sense that life isn't really worth the candle. The game isn't really worth the candle. Whereas the Holy Spirit teaches us that life is a school, you might say. It's a learning place. And the Course is a curriculum, and that we learn this curriculum. And as we learn it, then our life begins to become more fun. It becomes more happy and joyous. And that extends to those around us. and they begin to experience our healing, literally, which is for them also a healing, and vice versa. So when we're working at this level, we're working not just with ourselves, but we're literally working with the world. And the plan is not to just save ourselves and be happy while everyone else is not happy, but the plan includes everyone else, and no one is saved unless we all are saved. So everyone's part of the plan, and everyone is included in the salvation of the world. So these lessons are built upon a foundation of trust. And early into well, there's another book called The Manual for Teachers. There's a section called The Characteristics of God's Teachers, and one of them is trust. And that is actually the foundation upon which our healing is manifested. We have to begin to trust the Holy Spirit. We have to begin to trust. And sometimes we have to take that sort of leap of faith that we may not really know if this is worth trusting or not. But when you work with the Course, it begins to teach that you don't even have to really trust it at first. You know, we just take the steps that it teaches. We take the lessons as they come, and begin to apply them in our life and practice them. And what happens is the trust begins to increase, and I literally experience more and more trust in my life as I go about my daily activities. And not only that, one of the other beautiful lessons in the Course is I trust my brothers who are one with me. Now, I'm not saying that this is always easy. There are times when trust is very difficult to call upon. Yet, at the same time, we have to make a fundamental decision in life, I believe, and that is whether we're going to trust life or not. And for me, I would rather err on the side of trust than non-trust. I mean, if given a choice, there are times when I don't trust, but those are the times that I know now clearly that it's my ego that's keeping me from trusting. And I see other people's egos rather than who they really are. The ego is just a screen. It's a veil. And that we tend to buy into and believe. You know, that we believe that a person's their body. We believe that they're their personality. We believe that they're their, cars and homes and things like that. All these things begin to build an identity. Now, if we base our identity upon what all these things are that we're building, our career, our financial status, whatever else, in the externals, if we begin to build our identity upon that, what happens is, like everything else in life, change occurs. And if I'm building my identity on change, things that change constantly, then my identity is going to be changing constantly. And not only that, it's going to cause what I call the roller coaster effect. In other words, you know, if I get a raise, I'll be happy. If I get fired, I'll be sad. If I get to where I'm going, I'll be happy. If I don't get to where I'm going, I will be sad. And so on and so forth. In other words, it's conditioned upon the externals. So that is not the place you want to build your reality. You want to build your reality on the idea that you are eternal, that you are a spiritual being, and that who you really are will never die, and you will experience immortality and eternity, really. And that we are all infinite beings that can draw upon our source every moment of every day. And in order to get to that place of trust, we build the trust on exercises, you might say, a learning curriculum, a learning situation. And that's really the work of the Course, is to teach us how life is this big classroom. And each day we are presented with lessons. And some of the lessons we may have learned already, so we get like a review. You know, we get to see how well we've learned that lesson. And others we haven't, and those are the ones that recur and recur and recur until we learn that particular lesson. The Course points out that all trials are but lessons that we fail to learn, presented to us once again so that we can choose differently this time. So basically, the idea is every day is a learning day. And we'll be presented with lessons that we maybe have mastered, and we can get through those fairly easily. And we'll be given lessons that we haven't mastered, and so those are the ones that we need a lot of help and support, and that's where the Holy Spirit comes into play. That we don't have to learn these lessons by ourselves. There is the help of the Holy Spirit. And even, the Course says, angels lovingly hovering around us all the time. We don't have to trust ourselves as an ego, because the ego isn't trustworthy, actually. But there is something in us that can be totally trusted, can be totally called upon in time of need, and will respond to the slightest calling. And so when I'm in a state where I'm not happy, or I'm not in a state of peace, then I have really one need. You know, the needs are an important part of the Course in Miracles, because the Course teaches us about needs. In the world, the way we experience our lives on a daily basis, there are needs, literally. You know, you can say that you need gas for your car, you need food for your stomach, you need a house to live on, or live in, or, you know, maybe not, but, you know, there are certain needs that we have. But in reality, in truth, who we really are has no needs. The Spirit is eternally self-sufficient, and not only has no needs, but is constantly giving. And the rule of the Course is that more we give out in the way of love, in the way of forgiveness, in the way of happiness and peace, the more that will come back to us. It's infallible. You can't change it. Whatever we give out will come back. And so the idea is that we begin to, once we become conscious of this, we think about, what do we want to come back to us? We want love to come back to us. So therefore, we have to give out love. One of the quotes from the Course is, giving and receiving are one in time. Giving and receiving are one in eternity, but in time, giving comes first. So in time, in this third-dimensional time and space warp, we have to give out first. And then things come back to us. So one plan of the ego is to give out guilt, to give out, anger, attack. Well, if that's what we follow, if we choose to follow that, then what will return is anger and attack and guilt. This is really a simple lesson, at least on the abstract level, because we have one of two choices to make at any given moment. Do we want to experience love and peace, or do we want to experience attack and guilt? And how we will manifest that is through which choice we make. If we make the choice of love and peace and forgiveness, then that's what will be returned to me. If I make the choice of guilt and attack and anger, that's what I can expect in return. So forgiveness is sort of like this safety valve that we have. And it's not like necessarily you're going to change tomorrow everything in your life and you'll be totally happy and peaceful for the rest of your life. That's probably not going to happen. But as you work with these lessons and you begin to apply them more and more and more in your life, you do begin to experience, I have experienced lightening up and having a greater sense of purpose, a greater sense of identity, a greater identity, really. I mean, if I think about an identity of the body as my identity, then it's pretty limited. The body has a birth and the body has a death. But if I think of myself as a spiritual being that's really connected to God, and that God is eternal, and therefore I'm eternal, and I'm not a body, then my sense of identity begins to expand and include more and more and more of a greater sense of life and existence. So there are practical effects of this in that I have begun in my own life to really see that when I'm holding on to the ego's plan for salvation through grievances, then I am not happy. And when I'm releasing and willing to, and have just a little bit of willingness, as the Course says, to let go of the grievance, to let go of what I perceive the way people should be or the circumstances should be, then happiness begins to return to me. And that's what the Course really calls a miracle, is the willingness that I have to let go of a grievance. What's going to return to me will look and feel miraculous in many cases. And so the invitation is to look at the opportunities that we have every day to choose the plan of forgiveness, the plan of atonement, the Holy Spirit's plan, where we all get to the state of peace together, where everyone is included and no one's left out, where we experience our totality, our joining, our oneness with all there is, really. Or the choice of separation, of seeing myself as different than others, seeing myself as special, or seeing someone else as special, rather than who we really are as the Son of God. And so therefore, my only choice, really, if we really think about this, is to choose peace, to choose forgiveness, to choose the Holy Spirit's plan. And in that choice, what comes is healing, not only to me, but to the rest of the world. So I have the ability to really heal the world. That is not only my ability, but each one of us has that ability. Because our world really consists of everyone else that we perceive. And so when I'm healed, I'm not healed alone. And my thoughts have effects, not only on me, but what has an effect on me must have an effect through me. And what must have an effect through me must have an effect on me. So if I'm sending out, if I'm in my quiet and peaceful place and I'm feeling peace, that is going to have an effect on my environment. If I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling worried, like I was before this particular show, then that's going to have an effect on the environment as well. And it's a mirror. Our environment mirrors us. And it's a beautiful mirror because the more we grow in trust and the more we grow in our spiritual life and identity, what happens is the mirror effect becomes very, very rapid. In other words, I don't have to wait long before those signals I'm sending out get sent right back to me. So the feedback is very, very quick. And so that helps me make adjustments and corrections also. So it's a benign tool we have, really, the world and our environment, feeding back to me what it is I'm experiencing, and therefore having the choice then to continue to experience that or not. And so therefore, this section, 68 through 72, of these lessons 68 through 72, dealing with grievances, love holds no grievances, 68, and then on to 72, holding grievances as an attack upon God's plan for salvation. So we really have responsibility for that. And it's not bad and wrong to feel guilty. It's not bad to even be angry or even to attack. What it is it's delaying. It delays the ultimate outcome. A happy outcome to all things is sure. And the way we delay that happy outcome, not only in the world, but in our own life, is to hang on to grievances. So my commitment in life is to, as soon as I identify a grievance, as soon as I'm aware of something that I'm holding against someone, or even myself, we hold grievances against our own selves, then my work is cut out for me. That's my lesson. And then I have to go to work by going inward and asking the Holy Spirit to help me see this differently. Help me to see, if it's a person I'm upset with, help me to see that person differently so that I can see who they really are. And it's great for them, but not solely for them, for me, for my peace of mind, so that I can go about my life, living my life in the most joyous and happy way that I can. And always knowing that we have the other option, that the ego is always available if we want to choose that, and beginning to see the difference. When I choose the ego, hanging on to grievances, attacking, feeling guilty, making others feel guilty, and so on and so forth. How do I feel with that way? As opposed to how I feel when I'm willing to forgive. And it's not even I have to forgive. the Holy Spirit will do the forgiving through me if I allow Him to. So, these are useful thoughts to consider when we are not feeling well. And if you have any inclination at all to work with these lessons, to help see life differently, to help see other people differently so that we can be happier and more fun and more productive even in our lives. So I invite you to look at these lessons and take them to heart, you might say, to integrate them in your life. And not only these, of course, but all the lessons of the course. And working with the text to weave together a beautiful foundation for your life, a beautiful tapestry of people and circumstances, events and situations that help you experience joy and ecstasy, to experience peace and give love. So, until next time, I invite you to play the game of A Course in Miracles, the happy game as the Course calls it, and to have a great time in your life. God bless you, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.